It's that time of year again. New iPhones, new glimpses of where Apple would like to take the industry. And thankfully, after, in my opinion, the relatively lackluster 6S models, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are a real return to form for Apple, with genuine user benefits in terms of audio, imaging and battery life. The iPhone 7 Plus goes further as usual. So, lackluster, the previous 6S? I was sceptical about the 3D touch system from an engineering point of view, though I'll acknowledge that I haven't heard of anyone's iPhone 6S display actually packing up from repeated depression, so maybe my cynicism was misplaced. Or could it be that most regular users just don't use 3D touch much after 8 years of Apple training us to use featherlight capacitive touch? The 7, despite what you may have read on other sites and in newspapers, is much more, I think, than an incremental improvement. True, the very welcome improvement in speed, capacity, the range now starts at 32 gigabytes, yay, and battery life could have been predicted. But the addition of OIS to the camera in the vanilla iPhone 7 here is much more than just a spec bump. It takes imaging into a whole new league by letting iPhone users shoot low light shots with confidence, knowing that the shutter can be open for longer and that the final photo will have less noise and better colours, but more on that in a moment. Then there's the use of stereo speakers for the first time. As with OIS, this is something of a catch-up feature to many handsets in the Android world, but it's brand new to the iPhone. Will make a huge difference when watching media. Think YouTube, as here, Netflix and so on. Social in-person video sharing in the office, home and school is huge, and the stereo sound and double volume will help a lot here. Again, it's not innovation as such, but it's certainly a discrete step up from what came before on the iPhone. The stereo isn't quite perfect. Half the sound gets blasted out sideways at the bottom of the phone, but it's easily good enough. Fidelity is good too, with surprising bass and crisp top end. In my test, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus speakers matched those in most of the Android top end competition. Somewhat cheesily, Apple has doubled up the speaker grill on the bottom of the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, but this is just cosmetic, and the left-hand one is a dummy. Apple's excuse is that there's a barometric sensor behind it. Ho-hum. You could argue that the change in home button from mechanical to solid state is playing catch-up, since Android and Windows phones have had capacitive controls since day one. Though Apple adds enough secret sauce in the configurable Taptic engine so as to try and convince the senses that there's still a moving part underneath the iconic home circle. It's not 100% convincing, but it's amazing how quickly you get used to this arrangement. Think minutes rather than hours. You can set the degree by which the Taptic vibration kicks off when pressing the home button with a choice of 3 amplitudes. I found that the strongest suited me best, but your mileage may vary here. Great to have a choice anyway. The change from a mechanical button to a solid state does have a large part in the new IP67 rating for water and dust resistance, and living in a household where water damage has been an issue in the past, this is greatly to be welcomed. You still can't swim or shoot videos underwater, at least you're not supposed to. There's a clause in the small print that says that you're not covered for water damage, unbelievably, but drop it in the toilet or sink and the 7 or 7 Plus will be absolutely fine. One other change from previous iPhones is worth noting. It's to do with iOS 10. Gone is slide to unlock. Instead, you just apply pressure to the home button and you're done. The fingerprint recognition being so quick. For other lock screen actions, swipe the whole thing right or left to see widgets and shortcuts or to gain access to the camera. It's very nicely done indeed. Then there's the way that, just as on recent Nexus Android phones, the lock screen lights up briefly to show time and notifications when you just lift the phone from a resting place. This is a time saver, obviously. No button pushing needed. Aside from imaging on the 7 Plus, which I'll come to in a moment, the real innovation here is the now infamous decision to axe the traditional 3.5mm headphone jack, with Apple mainly quoting reasons of space and difficulty of waterproofing with it in. These are both kind of valid, though the company's ultimate aim is to have everything, including charging, presumably, be wireless, and the iPhone a seamless glass entity with no orifices. That'll come perhaps in the iPhone 8 in 2017. There won't be a 7S, you heard it here first. In fairness, most of us do use wireless audio a surprising amount, whether by AirPlay, via Bluetooth, or simply by using these wonderful stereo speakers. Only about a third of my audio on a smartphone actually goes via a 3.5mm jack normally, so the removal of this isn't going to be quite as distressing as most pundits have been predicting. I, of all people, hate to sound like an Apple apologist, but the company really does have things covered here. There are lightning versions of the old AirPods in the box, even though I personally can't stand them in terms of fit and fidelity. Plus, there's a lightning to 3.5mm adapter included as well, so that you and I can simply plug in the quality headphones of our choices when the time comes. Many people simply leave the Apple adapter on the end of said headphones, and thankfully Apple's only charging about $10 or local equivalent for the extra adapters, so it's not a big issue to just grab a few of these and leave them on your headsets or other convenient places in your life. Also launched with the iPhone 7 range was Apple's own expensive, auto-connecting but also losable wireless AirPods, though it's worth noting that generic Bluetooth headphones, costing far less and more secure mechanically, they work just fine too. Set against all this is that with only the one port, you can't out of the box charge your iPhone and listen to wired headphones at the same time. But there are gadgets and dongles and docks, just shop around if you need to. In day-to-day use, it's iOS 10 with a smooth next-gen version of messages with stickers, bar humbug, a new version of Siri that can be extended by and to third-party apps, and a simplified control center now expanded over multiple panes. Better integration with smart home gadgets, facelifted music and news apps and much more. 3D Touch has been extended to work with more of the built-in applications and more quick access actions. I actually found myself using it. Shock horror. You may have seen various YouTube videos showing the iPhone 6s running rings around a Galaxy S7 in terms of opening applications one by one. While this test is somewhat artificial, it does show how fast iOS is with these modern super optimized Apple designed chips. The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus have a quad-core A10 Fusion chip with two high-speed 2.3 GHz cores and two low-power 1 GHz cores, backed up by 2 GB of RAM and 3 GB on the 7 Plus respectively. The upshot, given the relatively low 750p and 1080p screens, is very fast operation when needed and terrific battery life the rest of the time. Battery capacity is up about 10% from the versions on the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. Add in the A10 efficiencies and the iPhone now gets from dawn to dusk in my experience, and that wasn't always the case. There are two big takeaways in the imaging department. One is the addition of OIS to the standard iPhone 7's camera. Every phone, of course, can take great snaps in the sunshine, but when the light levels drop, then OIS comes into its own. Here, the 12 megapixel camera now has an f/1.8 aperture, letting in 50% more light. And of course, exposure times can themselves be many times longer, up to a quarter of a second. So put the two together and you've got a recipe for superb evening shots. Shot-to-shot and burst mode times are amazingly fast as usual with Apple's latest chipsets. The second takeaway is in the 7 Plus with a second 2x zoom lens. This can be switched to in good light to provide really quite decent telephoto shots. In my tests, results were up with the zoom champions like my old Lumia 1020, amazingly. Only in good light though, since the 2x lens here isn't stabilised. Under poor conditions, the software overrides the manual switch to 2x and carries on using the OIS-equipped main lens, along with digital zoom, with pretty average results. Video capture on the iPhone 6s was already pretty excellent, up to 4K, and with high frame rates way beyond what most people can watch on domestic equipment. Plus, the software and electronic stabilization was already good, yet the iPhone 7's camera's OIS also works in video capture, not something you can always take for granted, giving almost a Steadicam facility to iPhone shot footage. Apple call it cinematic, and rightly so. Plus, the 2x zoom lens also works in video mode, though obviously without that hardware stabilization. No doubt 2017's iPhone 8 Plus will have OIS on both lenses, but in the meantime, my only other complaint would be that the audio capture is still mono, a step behind competing smartphone capabilities. Across the board, then, it's a story of improvements, of catch-up, and yes, innovation, or at least a glimpse as to how Apple thinks the future should work. Don't listen to the doom and gloom mongers, and I speak as a fan of 3.5mm headphones and audio fidelity. I predict that the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus will sell very well, better than the 6S range. From camera to battery to speakers to waterproofing, I'm running out of things to complain about in an iPhone, even when comparing it to the tech goodies available elsewhere in the farthest reaches of the mobile world. If the 3.5mm jack is an issue for you, there are solutions, not least staying with the 6S and 6S Plus. But for the rest of the world, the iPhone 7 hits an awfully sweet spot in terms of technology.